Yeah, I'm fascinated by the idea that early in life, we experience some interaction with the world. It could be with other people, it could be with an object in the world, and it makes us feel something powerful.
Yeah.
And that lays a template of recognition, meaning that later in life and perhaps throughout life, we're always consciously or subconsciously going back to trying to experience that same kind of awe or inspiration. Because again, the circumstances almost certainly vary from being a 5-year-old to being an adolescent and into adulthood and into the geriatric years. Do they still call it that? I probably used the politically incorrect term, but forgive me.
Okay.
75 to 125. And yet the feeling is the same, right?
Yeah.
The feeling. And so it's as if a word can mean the same thing, but be used 50 different ways, maybe 5,000 different ways.
To represent
in this
novelty.
analogy, I'm saying that the word is the feeling, and and it's used so many different ways because occasionally I'll read a scientific manuscript and I'll go, that is so cool.
Yeah.
And it's the same way that I feel when I was 9 years old and I spent all my time in the pet store looking at tropical fish and tropical birds and thinking, oh my God, that freshwater discus fish is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And again, I think I must have a strong memory for these kinds of things because I feel it right now in my body.
Yeah.
So it's as if the same thing maps to so many different circumstances. So is what we're learning across the lifespan a recognition of feelings in our body as, this is something I like because of the way it makes my body feel? Or is it cognitive or both? From your answer a moment ago, it seems like it's so interconnected and bidirectional and fast that it's impossible to really say that feelings are in the body or in the brain. It's really happening simultaneously.
It's a dynamic emergent state. Let me give you an example that I use sometimes to help myself understand the notion. So, my little daughter, Nora, when she was 2 and some months, 2 and 4 months, something like that. She was a very verbal kid. And I was sitting in the kitchen one day, drinking a cup of tea. I was sad about something that happened in my life, but I wasn't weeping or anything. I was just sitting there. I must have looked kind of, lost in my own thoughts. She's playing around on the floor. She came over to me. I'll never forget it. This tiny little person. She comes over to me and noticed I wasn't really there with her. You know what I mean? And my arm was hanging down. She picked up my arm and she held it against her face like that. And she said, I won't say it in baby talk because you won't understand, but she said, "Don't worry, Mama. I'll take care of you." And
Amazing.
I said, "Oh, Nora, that's so sweet, sweetie. I'll take care of you too." And she said, "And Mama, I really love you. I really love you." And then she said, "I really love your arm. I really love your arm." Right? Fast forward 2 years later, almost exactly 2 years. She's 4 in a couple months. And she was in bed one night, laying in her bed in the dark. And I walked by and I listened at the door to see if she was sleeping there. And I hear this little whisper comes out. And she says, "Mama, I love you more than I'm glad that there's daytime." Right? What's changed developmentally from her at age 2 to her at age 4, right? I would argue that the physiological substrate of her attachment to her mother is probably quite similar. She had this sort of visceral, automatic, biological, you might say, attachment, connection to me emotionally that she was trying to leverage in the service of making sense of, being active in that world and adapting herself to the situation, helping me in the first case, right? But what's changed remarkably is not the substrate of that attachment, it's her ability to conceptualize it, right? When she's 2, her love is experienced as this incredibly concrete, embodied, real physical thing. Like, I love you. I really love the body part I am currently smushing against my face, right? Whereas 2 years later, she can conceptualize that love in terms of an idea, which is, wouldn't it be awful if there was nighttime all the time and there was no sunshine and daylight and I couldn't go out to play and I couldn't, right?
You're describing my biggest fear. Listeners of this podcast will know that I'm going to go into the grave, hopefully a long time from now, telling people to get morning sunlight in their eyes.
I know, I still do it because of you.
But please continue. Yeah.
No, but that's right. So she's thinking about how much she is grateful for there to be sunlight. And in her little mind, she connected that to the feeling of being attached to me and used one to explain the other, right? So that both things now have meaning. And that is the way I think that we start to elaborate these very basic physiological attachment states, aversion states, right? Motivational states of various sorts into mental states, beliefs, poems, love songs, all the things that she does, right? Even between age 2 and age 4, that really are mental elaborations, meaning making of that very physiologically basic sensation.